Begin. In the chat, you will see a link to the presentation. Please go ahead and click that link so that you have all the resources that are going to be discussed in this session. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Tell Me a Digital Story. My name is Alisa McCullom. Thank you for joining me today. Feel free to use the chat because I love when you type back and forth with me. I love when you share your thoughts and ideas. If something is resonating with you or if you have a question about something, feel free to use the controls at the bottom of the screen, especially that raise hand component. If you have questions in the midst of the conversations, I would like it to be a conversation, but y'all, I talk a lot and I talk quickly. So feel free to say, girl, slow it down. That's okay with me. As I stated, welcome to Tell Me a Digital Story with me, Alisa McCullom. I mentioned to a couple of folks just a moment ago, if you have not already done so, please download the Performance Matters app so that you will receive credit for the course. At the end of the session, I am going to pull up, I should say, a QR code so that you can scan and receive credit for the course by marking your attendance. I'm ready to go. Everybody ready to go? Woohoo! Let's get started. Once again, welcome to Tell Me a Digital Story. In the chat, I want you to take a moment, type your first name, please, and tell me, what's your favorite story? What types of stories do you like? I love sci-fi. I love drama. I love escapism. So yeah, anything with vampires and werewolves and things of that nature that can't possibly be true, that's my jam. Yes, I love futuristic and urban fiction as well. Those are the types of stories that resonate with me. And I probably read about 4 or 5 books in a week. I love to read all the time. I also like not only to read books, but I like to have my students be creators of their own story. So that's our goal today. Ooh, I see some J. Oh, yes, JD. I love her stuff. Yes. Children's books. I read all kinds of children's books. I just love the images. I love the stories. I was rereading Harry Potter again recently just because. Why not? Just reread The Hobbit. Just because I love the language of The Hobbit, because it's so different from, if you've seen The Hobbit, the movie, the different Hobbit movies, and then you read the book, you realize the stories are so different. The characters themselves are different as well. Historical fiction, some suspense, Esperanza Rising, read Esperanza Rising with the 5th graders, and it was a very interesting story to me as well. So thank you for sharing your thoughts about the stories. Stories take us on a journey. They take us, if they're fictional stories, we're able to imagine ourselves in those contexts. If they are imaginative stories, we flow with that story. Sometimes we read those historical novels that are based on truth. Sometimes we read nonfiction as well. I'm actually decided to go back and finish my master's. I know I keep putting it off. And I'm in the midst of reading all kinds of papers about different educational philosophies and things of that nature. It's interesting what people put down on paper. So our job today is to retell our story. We're going to share. Give me one moment. What in the world? Love when the phone goes off in the middle of a meeting. Sorry about that. So our job is to tell a digital story. We're going to talk about our story, ourselves. We're going to be looking from the context of fiction as well as nonfiction. So we'll have the opportunity to look at both components. So let's go, my friends. Okay. This session is about digital storytelling. At its most basic core, well, what is digital storytelling? It's using computer-based tools to tell stories. So my job is going to be presenting some of those computer-based tools to you. And we're going to be coming up with ways to share our thoughts, how to generate content, how to put it all together, how to do all of those things. When I look at storytelling, Joyce Lucas, one of my favorite directors, woohoo, storyteller. Storytelling is all about two things. It's about the character and it's about the plot. But how do we come up with an idea about the character? How do we generate content that we're going to put into the plot? What about those other things like the setting, the soundscape, the imagery? How do we come up with ideas? What resources can we use to generate that type of content as well? So today, we're going to be looking at what makes a good digital story. Your job, by the time we leave here, is going to be to design and create a 2 to 3 minute, not very long, 1 to 3 minute, I should say, digital story using the available tech tools. So I'm going to present a curated list of tools to you. You're going to pick and choose from them. I have some that we're going to explore for each phase of the digital story writing process. Now, here's the thing, my friends. I love to curate resources. I love to find cool things and pull them all together and say, oh, I can use this with this person. I can use this with this group of students. I can use this with myself. So I have this huge bank of curated resources. I'm going to share that bank of curated resources with you as we go through the story writing process. There will be a collection of resources for ideation and storyboard building. There will be a collection of resources for how we go about writing the script or our text for our story. I'll be sharing some resources with you to locate imagery and audios and soundscapes. I'll be sharing resources with you that will assist you in putting everything together. We'll also be thinking about how do we share and reflect and feedback on the story that we have created. Now that part is really key. And most of the time we skip that part, but that's crucial. That sharing of a wider audience. It's really important that we reflect on what we've done. We evaluate ourselves, we evaluate our peers, we give feedback, because that's actually where the growth actually takes place. The growth doesn't take place in the creation. The growth takes place in the reflection of the product that you've created. So we're going to look at those resources. Are you ready? Yes, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Aha. So you will see, let me back up for just a second. On this page, there is a link that says, make a copy and open the speaker notes. I've hidden some things in the speaker notes. There's some tutorials and some additional information embedded in the speaker notes that I want you after our course to make sure you take a closer look in. As we go through each resource, I'm going to give you an overview. That doesn't mean that you're going to be an expert once we do this little short overview, but I'm giving you food for thought. I'm giving you resources that you can later go back and explore even deeper. Yes, that's right. You have homework. Yes, you, my friend. Once we finish taking this general overview, you may, for your homework, dive deeper into each resource. Now, if I'm discussing a resource and you're like, man, I know about that resource. Yes, I've used that forever. Tell us your insight. Tell us what resonates with you about that particular resource. Or if you have questions about it as we're going through, write that as well. We are a collective group of knowledgeable people. So let's get started. We're going to be first looking at resources for the first category, which is ideation. How do we generate ideas? When I'm working with my students and my staff members, that's our starting point. We want to generate ideas for stories. For the purpose of this session, I'm going to focus primarily on fiction, but please note that the same process and the same resources can be used for non-fictional or academic text as well, or academic or non-fiction story writing. I just find it a little bit easier because I'm not knowledgeable of your context to actually focus on the fiction component. But please note, all of this works with nonfiction as well. Now I'll try to spotlight that as we go along. When we're looking at ideation and when we're looking at thinking about how do we generate ideas, one of the first places we start is with a collection of intriguing words. What are those story starters, sentence stems? What are those things that get our minds going? I like to start with a resource called the Writing Exercises. This is actually a British resource, I think, but it's a site that gives us writing prompts. You can have random first lines. Oops, I just see something. I need to change the way in which I am presenting so you see everything. So give me a moment. Let me change my screen real quick so that you're not seeing just my tab anymore. There we go. So go back. So the writing exercises has a lot of different types of plot starters, sentence starters, components, from a random plot generator where you can have components there and pick items. And then some text will show up, some intriguing words will show up. You know, a woman herself who can be quite lively. If you keep going, more components will show up as well. I especially like their, which one is it? Boom, boom, boom. I think it's this one. Where we can generate a story plot. This gets the ideas flowing. Sometimes it's difficult to start by putting your pen on paper with a blank slate. One of my favorites to use with my K-5 students is the Scholastic Story Starter because you're able to come up with stories based on genre. So if I choose sci-fi, and I'm going to type my first name, and I'm going to pretend I'm a third grader, I get components that are just right for a third grade level. I spin, which is always quite fun. And it kind of gives me different components. So this one says, describe 3 hobbies of a foolish puppet who counts shooting stars. If I don't like something, because I don't particularly like this foolish, I can spin just just one part of it. So this is a cool one too. It's called the Writing Igniter. And on this particular website, you're given different scenarios based on a character, a situation, a prompt, a setting. You can shuffle that bad boy to come up with something different, kind of like the one we just pulled the lever. And each part helps you begin your story writing process just with those intriguing words. And in this case, they plopped in an image. One of my all-time favorites is actually a website that's actually British, and it's the Story Shed. The Story Shed allows just for a few words, a beginning sentence that gets your mind going. The eyes in the painting follow him down the corridor. My mind starts going, where am I? Where is he, rather? What is in that painting? Why are their eyes following him? Just that sentence gets your imagination flowing. There are about 52 of those right here. I didn't mean to kill her. Oh my goodness, who did you kill? Icy fingers grip my arm in the darkness. Where are you? Who's actually grabbing your arm? What are you going to do about it? So these intriguing words get our minds flowing. In addition to intriguing words, we have our sounds, music, soundscapes bring our thoughts alive as well. And one of the resources that I love to use for music is actually Pixabay. And you may know Pixabay as an image website, but they have music as well. And the part that I love about it, I can sample it. Those are 2 very different types of music. What popped in your head as you listened to each? I love that I can download, or my students can download immediately, that sample of music. All they have to do is click download, my friends, and it saves as an MP3 file. There's no login. That is awesome, especially when you're working with younger students. No login is needed. You don't have to credit, but I would suggest that you give attribution. And there's many different types of musical samples to choose from. So cool. I want you to explore some of the other curious sound items on here as well. We have the free music archive, where you can search for different types of music. You're able to search by genre. So maybe I want my music to be a little poppy, a little happy. I can search for that genre. I can click. If I play this music for my students, and we have an opportunity to do a quick write, what content are they going to generate? What is it going to inspire them to create? What if I'm playing that music as we're putting together electrical circuits and they're having to explain their process? How does that inspire them? Just like on Pixabay, all you have to do is do a click of the download button on this particular site. You have to agree and give attribution, note that you understand, and it immediately downloads as well. Awesome. Love it. We have a couple more. You can look at Jamedia. You can look at Sound Bible. Sound Bible works best, in my opinion, on Firefox. It never works well for me on Chrome, but check it out, right? Check it out. I know students are on Chromebooks and they're not necessarily going to be able to get to Sound Bible, but that's for you to play as well. Remember, these resources are for you as well as the students. So that's why I put that caveat about Sound Bible working best on Firefox. Okay, so you also can look for sound effects. I especially use these sound effects with my students when we are creating, I teach a class, an elective class on digital game design. We pull in these sound effects to make our games even more exciting. I have my students write the backstory for the creation of their game. On this particular one, we have the different sound effects, and this one is an airplane. And they download it again as an MP3 file. And guess what? Again, you do not need to log in. That is a barrier for our students. We do not log in here. They have it. They can pull it into different products. I place YouTube here, and you got to be careful with YouTube because you got to curate. You got to think about it. You have to do your behind the scenes work. No, please don't send students willy-nilly to YouTube, but YouTube is filled with different background music. And you just play that music for your students to start thinking. We do quick writes in my class. I play it. It is filled with different components of music. But please do your due diligence and check. Not only is there background music, there's different sounds, chickens clacking. What do you need in your story? There's plenty of them. And there's also sound effects. But please do your due diligence. All of those resources, we're having students act as consumers. I want students to be creators as well. That's powerful. If they're coming up or generating content for their story, maybe they want to create the sound that goes along with it too. And that's where Beat Maker comes in. You can create your own sound board. Let's check it out. And it will loop. Now, in this case, I can play around with it for free and just get on with it and listen to the music. But if I want to save it, I do need to log in, right? I do need to log in. So I do want to make sure that I'm playing around with the soundscape and I'm checking it out. And maybe I'm using it for inspiration, but if I want to keep it, I do need to log in to keep it. Cool to be the creator of the content, not just the consumer. One of my favorite ways to create content, if you haven't checked it out, please do, is Incredibots. Click the web version. There is an app. The app costs money, and I'm all about the free stuff, folks. But Incredibots allows you to create mixes of music. The top 4 are free on the web version. The bottom 4 are available on the app. So let's pretend we were here. It does take a while to load. So you have to give it some time to load, but I actually have my kids create accounts on Incredibox because we save the soundscapes that we develop. My students, again, as I was stating, we were creating soundscapes or digital game design music, and this was our background. On Incredibox, you're able to dress our character with different hats. And as you dress them with different hats, the beat changes. You've mixed different music. So let's have a look. Okay, I can play with that all day, right? But what inspires you from those sounds? Have a look at these free resources for music. These curious sounds help us generate ideas, generate content for the stories that we're going to develop. In addition to those sounds, use props, right? Pull those toys out. I go to Goodwill and I find lots and lots of different little toys, interesting components that people have gotten rid of, and I bring those into my classroom. I like to use puppetry. I love the photo booth props because they're small and easy to store as well. And then popping into the Dollar Tree, finding some unique items to place in front of students as they're generating content for their stories. All interesting ways to get that story process flowing. In addition to our props, one of my favorites, let me try that again. One of my favorite things to do is to start with an image. This is a huge collection of Creative Commons resources for the most part, where you can use the resources to give attribution, or many times you don't need to, the images you have selected. My favorite, as we talked about before, is Pixabay, which has, which has a huge collection of just quality images that resonate with you. What is lion? Think about our 4th graders that are doing animal habitat and adaptation. What can they tell us about that creature? Or even better, let's go down to this lovely little bug. How is this insect adapted to its environment? What would we do if we changed it? What if we moved it to a different environment? Using these images are very inspirational to our students. What are they thinking about? What if I wanted to use this image as the start of a fantasy story? Where is this guy? How is he slicing into the world? What is he looking into? What story would be developed from just that image itself? And these are free to download and free to use. What about our students who are studying the moon? Our 2nd graders, our 3rd graders, the shadows, phases of the moon. What would they say here? What could they put on this particular image? Our 4th graders and our 5th graders with landscapes, different landforms. What do they tell us about it? Maybe you're doing a historical component and the sculptures themselves came to life. What would they share? What would be their story? There's lots of ways to use these images. In addition to Pixabay, there's lots others to explore. I also like to look into Twitter, because there's a whole selection of writing prompts that are available there that people have pulled in. Again, I'm going to say do your due diligence, check them out, because you want to make sure that it's appropriate for your students. One of my favorite things to do as well is to check out this website, which is Visual Writing Prompts. And what I like about this website is not only do you have the image, you also have some text. You have some text that's been added as well. Check out this one. I love it. You are a real estate agent for magical homes. Like, I totally want to write this story. I want to be that real estate agent for magical homes. Look at that house. This is an enchanted little house. What can we tell about that house? What makes it so magical, right? What makes it come to life And there are many others to take a look at that are very, very different, even some that will generate discussion, pros and cons for different components. Dive deeper there. We have some additional photos as well. In addition to using static photos, I like to also use video. Remember, we're generating ideas. And one of the video components I like to use, and this is one of my favorite ones, this is SOAR. I love to use wordless animation. There's no talking in this story, but the story itself is beautifully told. For my students, they generate the content. They put in the text for the story. They may not do all of it, but I have them pick different short snippets, and they create the text to go along with the characters that they see on the screen. Love it. There's lots of those there. If you want to check out the YouTube playlist for CG Bros, they have lots of wordless animation that can be utilized for storytelling. The last one I'm going to look at here is writing prompts. This particular component is, again, lots of pictures that have been developed that also have writing prompts to go along with it. But in this case, they are put together in different genre formats, where they can be our nonfiction expository writing, or they could be our fictional components and persuasive writing as well. Lots of different ones. And there's lots of components to get us started. Oh, I love that. The greatest movie of all time. So let's not start a fight. We can write that in the chat, but what do you think that would be? There's lots of components and very evocative images that really make your mind wonder. In addition to those appealing images, we had some intriguing words. We had some cool sounds. We have our images. That's great. That got us started. But then we got all these ideas flowing. How do we start to corral those ideas? How do we start to pull them all together to make sense of them? Well, we start looking at our mind maps or our storyboards. And there's lots of tools we can use. And I'm going to tell you, to be honest, paper and pencil works, folks. And that's typically what I do. I like to jot on paper and pencil, but we have just been, we're in the midst of a pandemic and there's different levels. We have needed to use some digital tools to actually generate our thoughts from mind maps. And one of those tools that worked best that we found was Jamboard. Google Jamboard worked really well with our students. One of the things I did with the students is I created writing frames for them. And in this case, you see an example where we had just a beginning, middle, and end of a story that we were generating thoughts and ideas about that we turned into a comic. The kids were able to take a Post-it note and they wrote just a few sentences about what they thought was going to happen in the beginning, middle, and end of their story. And then we used that to actually create our comic strip. Another tool to look at is Poplet. I like Poplet. You're allowed like 3 free. So I have the students actually create their Poplet, which allows them to put in text. It allows them to put in, I'm not going to sign in, sorry. It allows them to put in text. It allows them to put in images. It allows them to link to websites. They're able to create 3 free. Most of the time, I don't even have the students log in. I actually have the students create one and done, and we take our snippet of it and we're done with it. So that's our quick write component. You can do similarly with the Bubble Us, works the same as Poplet. I like those two. They're very, very simple. I also like to use Google products, and I tend to use more Google products because we tend to use that more often. Google Drawing is an underrated tool. It works really well for the creation of mind maps. And many times I have the students create their own, but we also use some pre-made templates. And Eric Kurtz has a wide variety of different graphic organizers that he's created already. We use them for inspiration in the creation of our own templates. And it's a really good starting point when the students are first beginning and they're like, how do I do this? It's a great place to start. So we have our mind maps, and we also need to think about how do we lay it out so that the story is truly developed? And that's when we move to our storyboarding. Again, I'm going to say to you folks, paper is the way to go. Storyboard on paper if you can. But if you need a digital alternative, Canva is a really cool resource. There's a Canva school components where kids are able to use it for free, and so are teachers, and there's lots of tutorials to go along with it. Book Creator allows you to have 40 free books, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a later component. We also have Storyboard That, and again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. Google Slides, I mentioned before, not only can it be used for mind maps, but it also can be used for your storyboarding components where you can put in your mock-up of your text and your images and your sounds all in one place before you create that final product. Love it. Woohoo! Now, why am I talking so much? Well, I want you, and I try to rush through that and like, why is she rushing through all this? Because my friends, the goal is to get you being the writer. And we're almost there. You ready, right? You're thinking about ideas, right? I know you are. We're going to draft our story. And we're going to do what's called a quick write. I showed you some images. I showed you some text. I share with you some sound. We're going to put it together. When we're thinking about putting those components together, here are some questions that I tend to ask my students. I have this poster listed in my room, and we start here. And this is basically when we're doing our little fiction writing. We're thinking about setting the scene. Here's some questions to kind of generate some ideas in your mind, right? Who are you? Where are you? Where's that event taking place? You know, why are you there? What caused, did something cause this to happen, whatever's taking place in that setting? What is actually happening? What emotions are you feeling? Because we want to show those emotions, not just tell about those emotions. Now, how did you get to wherever you were? How did whatever happened happen? And what additional information can you choose to share with your audience? Keep those questions in mind. Your job is going to be to do a quick write based on intriguing images, intriguing words. Let's have a look at some. Look at these images. Which ones appeal to you? If we look over on the left, we have this lovely item. I'm going to click on it. Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can truly see it. And when I click on it, I notice there's with some hidden components. I have a full moon there. This is a skull island. There's a little ship. I don't know if that's a pirate ship or just some grand schooner. I don't really know ships. There's some folks that are rowing. Are they rowing to shore? Are they rowing away from shore? What do you think is occurring? What's taking place in this image? What story would you generate if I gave you this image? This is from Pixabay. This image seems benign, but y'all, I'm going to tell you, this image scares me. I wonder where this road leads. What's down there? What's around the corner? Who took this image? Like, who's behind this image? Who's standing there looking into the forest? Where am I? What sounds would I hear? What's popping in your mind as you look at this image? We can make it non-fictional and talk about the trees themselves and the items that are growing, but I really like it from a fictional standpoint. Let's have a look at a couple more. Check out this image. Does it resonate with you? I'm always interested on how in the world did this volcano grow on this turtle's back? Are there any people on this island? Do they know they're on a turtle? What about this plane? This smoke always reminds me, like, are they damaged? Are they crash landing? What is the turtle thinking? What are the people on the airplane? What's popping in their minds? What's below the surface? I love this image. Let's check out the last one. Y'all, this is my friend Meg. She cool. You don't know her. She's a personal trainer. But that's not her only job. It sure isn't. Nope. Her real job kicks in when the sun goes down. She's a vampire hunter. And business is booming. How would you continue this story? What characters would be developed? What's happening? Where's she at? What's going on? Oh, love it, love it, love it. Which one of these four appeals to you? Keep them in mind. Think about the questions that I mentioned, but keep those images in mind. You're going to choose between one of these four images, or look at these intriguing words. Follow me, she whispered. Who is she? Where are you going? Why would you follow her? Deep in the lake, there lived a monster. The locals called. Dum, dum, dum. Where's this lake? How do the locals know it's there? Are they scared of it? Is it a friendly monster? What's the monster's name? The air filled with a familiar smell. But what are you smelling? Why was it familiar to you? What does it remind you of? You're going to choose one of the four intriguing images or one of these three intriguing words. Or you could be different and choose to use a writing frame. And this particular writing frame is based on the book, The Important Book by Margaret Weiss Brown. And this writing frame could be for anything, my friends. This is a great writing frame to use with nonfiction text. And I can tell you, it can be used for small things to even more complex ideas. The important thing about chocolate is it's yummy. It is brown. It is made with milk. It can include nuts. But the important thing about chocolate is it's yummy and gooey and ooey. Let's go. Or I can talk about the important thing about a square is it has four right angles. It has parallel lines. It has equal size. It blah. Pick something and you can tell the important thing about it. The important thing about a penguin is. The important thing about shoes are. Pick something and you can describe it using this writing frame. And you can be as elaborate or as simple as you want. Love that writing frame, especially for nonfiction text. A different writing frame, which works very, very well for fictional components, is the Pixar story writing frame. Y'all, this is the outline for every single Pixar story. All of them. And most of all of Disney's too, right? Once upon a time, something happened. Every day, the same thing happened until one day something different happened. And because of that, this happened. And because of that, this happened until finally, yes, my friends, until finally they resolve the issue. And that is every single Pixar story there is. And almost every single Disney story there is. That's their writing frame. You can write awesome stories using just this writing frame. Your job, back up, is to think about one of these images, which one of these four resonates with you, or one of these intriguing words, collection of intriguing words, which one resonates with you. Do you want to use a writing frame? Do you want to focus on the nonfiction or the fictional one? I'm going to turn it over to you in just a moment because we are going to do a quick write, which means that we are going to draft our text. Let me tell you the process first. I'm going to put the link in the chat in just a moment, but we're going to go to a collection of Google Slides that I've already created. Now, this is what I do with my students. I like to have their work in one location. So I'm looking at one file, not 25, right? So I put it in one location. You're going to click on that link and you're going to pick a slide. For example, if I pick slide number 1, and you're going to claim it by typing your name right here beside the word name. Underneath, in the box below, you're going to type your story based off of one of the intriguing images, one of the appealing images, one of the intriguing words, or the writing frames, or you could be completely divergent. You don't even have to choose those. You could be original and pick your own. But either way, I'm going to give you a period of time to actually do a quick write. Now, what in the world is a quick write? She keeps mentioning quick write. What are they? Well, y'all, a quick write is simply, I give you a very short amount of time and you write digitally. There is a caveat though. There's no erasing. All you do is write for that whole time because the whole point is to generate your thoughts and ideas, not get hung up on editing. So you want to think about what images are you going to include, which image you're going to choose, which intriguing words are you going to choose, or are you going to use the writing frames? So ready? Y'all ready? You're going to pick one of those. And I'm going to place the link in the chat. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. At the end of 5 minutes, we're going to use your writing in another portion of our activities. Okay, my friends, it's over to you. Click that link, click that link, click that link. I'm going to start my timer while you're writing. If you have any questions, I hope not because it's a writing time. But if you do have any questions, let me know in the chat. Ready, Freddies, and go! minutes. have 1 minute remaining. Awesome. Let me actually share my entire screen again real quick. Okie dokie. So I asked you to do a quick write. And with my students, I tend to have them do their drafting, their quick writes on one document. And that document is created by me so that I'm able to see all of their work in one location. This saves me from having to open multiple files when I'm looking for the same thing. The other benefit of placing all resources in one file is now if you were truly in my class and we actually had the time, I would assign students different file slides to look at. So if you created slide 1, then you may be looking at the person's work on slide 2. And this way, I'm able to allow the students to read each other's work and go ahead and discuss it. So students may be able to click on the comment component and actually add comments to each other's work, get some feedback, or we may be able to turn on the be able to give each other some comments based on their work, ask questions to each other as well, maybe spotlight some things that they are excited about. So that's why I choose to tend to place everybody. Peyton, you went all out. Love it, girl. I don't know if that's a boy or girl, but anyway, yeah, love it. But we're able to generate our content in one location and actually use it for other resources as well. And it's just really good to be able to use all the resources that are already embedded in Google Slides as well. I love what you were able to do, right? 5 minutes when I probably said it, probably was like, oh, that's a short amount of time. But it's really not. It's actually a very long amount of time, and we don't always appreciate how long the time it is. I like to do quick writes with my students, and generally I start off with a quick write with 1 minute. And they're like frantic and rushed, and they really don't have a good idea of how long that minute is. And we slowly increase the amount of time because I want to build up their stamina for writing. Be it our writing for academic purposes, or be it our writing for creative purposes. So sometimes we'll write for 2 minutes and tell me everything that you learned about electricity today, if that's what we're working on. Or in my case, write for 2 minutes and tell me everything that you're learning about coding. What did we just learn about? And by doing the quick writes, the students know they have a finite amount of time and they really focus on the work itself, right? Okay. The benefit, I'm loving what you folks have generated. How cool, right? We all have our different styles, and you're able to go back through and have a look at each one of them. The other benefit is you can take what you have written and pull it into other resources. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it all together. In order for us to put it all together, we're going to look at 3 different resources, and you're going to pick between those 3 different resources to put it all together. I'm going to do a quick spotlight of the 3 different resources. I'm just going to spotlight the 3. And that doesn't mean that's the only 3 resources you can use. You can use really any resource once you have generated your content. But I'm going to spotlight 3 to put it all together. We're going to look at Adobe Spark. And if you already know about Adobe Spark, please put it in the chat, because if I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it, I'm happy to concentrate on the ones that you don't know about. So if you use Adobe Spark, go, girl, got it, move on. If you use Book Creator, say, boom, got it, move on. If you use Storyboard that, please say, boom, got it, move on. So if you are familiar with these resources, please let me know so that we can actually spend our time more productively. Okay, so I'm going to start with Adobe Spark, and I love using Adobe Spark, but I'm going to throw out a caveat. Adobe products are really for students that are 13 and above, the general Adobe products. But Adobe, thank you for letting me know that you use Storyboard Ad. Adobe has created Adobe Classroom, and that's for our younger students. The Adobe Classroom is still in beta, so I'm going to talk about Adobe Sparks, but I want you to know that you need to be using the Adobe Classroom component with our students who are in elementary school, right? Oh, love that some of you heard of none of them. Great. So I'm going to start with Adobe Spark. Here's where, when I said that there are some hidden components, I'm going to spotlight those hidden components. I'm not going to go into all of the nitty gritty about how to use each one of these tools, but I got you covered, my friends. I place tutorials for Adobe Spark, for Book Creator, and for Storyboard That right in the speaker notes. So please make sure you do make a copy of this presentation because most of the slides have some good little information, some nuggets in the speaker notes. So even though I'm not going to go into massive detail, I got you covered by putting in full tutorials in the speaker notes. Okay, gotcha. So I'm just going to do a whirlwind tour in the interest of our time. Because we're now generating content and pulling our resources together, this is where, yes, we do have to log in. We do have to have accounts because we want to save our work and be able to go back to our work again at a later date, right? So our first tool that we're going to look at is Adobe Spark. And Adobe Spark is really cool. I can't remember if I've logged in or not. I have. So I'm just going to quickly log out real fast just to show you that process. I'm going to try anyway. Here we go. So if you are a teacher, your school could have an enterprise account. And that means you're going to log in using the teacher or student component. If, like, for example, if you're in Wake County, we have an enterprise account with Adobe, where that means we have access to Adobe Spark through our enterprise component. If your school district does not have that, I would advise you to use one of these on the left to actually be able to log in. So I'm just going to quickly log into my account, and I'm going to continue with Google because I know we have it as an enterprise component, and I'm just going to pick my login. I'm going to choose the enterprise one because that's for school, and that's what our students do who are of age. I'm going to choose Wake County at the bottom. When I stated before that there's a classroom account, it is a different login, and I will go back and add in the login to classroom. As I stated, it's still in beta, but that's what we use with our younger students. So I'm just going to log in regularly with my Wake County one. Once we log in, we're going to generate, or we're going to create a simple slideshow. There's lots of options that you can explore at a later time, but I'm going to click on slideshow. And the reason why I'm clicking on slideshow, and I'm going to say, I like to call it popcorn because I just do. I'm just going to give it a title. It's always good to have a title. If you're doing this with students, please get them in a naming structure. So get them in a habit of using a naming structure. And what I mean by that is you either want them to start with their class. So for example, I teach a range of students, so I'll have them write 4G for Gilchrist so that I know their grade level, I know their teacher's class, and then we write their name. So we want to come up with a naming structure so that when you're looking back at these products, you know who it belongs to. So that's a tip that I was asked you to throw in there. Come up with a naming structure so you can locate items easily. Once I have my title, I can choose to use a template, but most of the cases, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't use a template. I just start from scratch. So I'm going to click that button at the bottom, and it's going to start. And what I love about Adobe Spark is that it lets you add in simple text, image, and music in a very, very simple product. So it's only a minute, so I'm going to play this. cool. Love it. Okay. So with our Adobe Spark, it's so easy to create professional looking slideshow videos with very little effort. So I'm going to start by adding a title, and I'm just going to call my title Popcorn because that's what I'm starting with. Has nothing to do with what we've done, and I'm going to add a new slide. And I can choose to keep the same layout, or I could come over to the right side. And it does look different on an iPad because this is also an iPad app as well. But you can choose different formats. So there's a little bit of differences. So I can choose to add photos that are built directly into Adobe Spark, or I can choose to upload the photo that I found when I was using my intriguing images. I'm going to choose just popcorn here, and I have my little character. I'm going to move, give it time to load. I'm going to move him over just a little bit. So I'm going to click edit, and I'm going to drag him over so he fills my frame just a little bit more. And I can add text really quickly. Wait a minute. Cool. That's enough, right? So Froggy sat down. Oops, I love that. That's not a D. So Froggy sat down to watch his favorite movie when he heard a sound, right? So I got my text in there already. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I can change it up. I can change the font. So I can continue to add slides in there if I choose to and keep the same thing. But here's what I like about Adobe Spark. Not only can I add in my own images, I can add in video that's built in as well, little snippets of video. I can add in my text all on one. I can change the layout. So for example, instead of having a split screen, maybe I can just click the button and change it to a full screen. It's just that simple. How cool is that, right? Look how I just changed it that quickly. I can change it to caption. And I typed it one time, friends. I typed it one time, but you immediately can see some of the items, right? So I also can add my voice. And to add your voice, you're going to click on the microphone and you're going to hold it down. Have the students think in their mind, count to 3 before they speak, and have them count to 3 before they let go of the mic as well. Froggy sat down to watch his favorite movie when he heard a sound. Boom, I just added my voice to my to my slide just that quickly, right? Just that quickly. Yes, you can upload your own photos as well. I did not have to choose the photos from Adobe. The photos from Adobe they credit the Adobe files. You can connect other sources, you can upload, or you can take a picture and put yourself there as well if you wanted to. I'm not going to take my picture because I'm on with you, so I'm going to ignore that. But you can put yourself in the story as well by taking a picture, uploading your own photos. That's our intriguing images. You already have your text from somewhere else. So let me go back to where you folks had been writing the text. And I'm going to choose, I don't know whose I'm on. I'm on Michelle's, and I'm going to choose Michelle's because my middle name is Michelle. So, hey, Michelle, girl, spell it same way, right? And I'm just going to paste the text. So I was on, let me show you that process. I highlighted the text on Google Slides. Remember, you already generated your text. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. You already generated your text. I'm going to take just one sentence of it. I highlight it to copy it. So you can click Control-C to copy, or you can right-click and copy. And then I'm going to go boom here, and I'm going to paste my text. I've already generated my content, right? I've already done that. So now I can add it into another resource. That's the whole benefit of going ahead and generating your content in something like Google Slides or Google Docs. You can then use that content in any resource. You don't lose it, and you can constantly go back to it. And I'm going to show you that I use the same content in 3 different resources. With Adobe Spark, I can change the theme. Maybe I don't want it to be that lovely blue. Maybe I want to change, not only do I want to change the background color, but I also can change the font style as well. And it's just that quick. It's the click of a button, and you get these professional look to it. In addition to changing, let's go back to, I kind of like this black. In addition to changing the background image. You can add in your own content, but I also can add music. I can pull in my own music. Remember, we located our soundscape, right? We saved our soundscape as MP3 files. You can pull those MP3 files into Adobe Spark. You already have that. Or you can choose to use their built-in music. So you can have a listen, and you can click through and choose music that resonates with you. Choose music that's going to bring your story to life. Now, if I choose some really upbeat music, it's very, very different. If I choose music that is like in a horror category, it changes the whole flavor of the video itself, right? So you want to make sure that the music goes along with your story itself. So let's have a look. I'm going to click on it to choose the ukulele scroll. Let's play it. Froggy sat down to watch his favorite movie when he heard a sound. And I didn't add in any additional part for Michelle's that I had pulled from hers, right? So how cool is that? In addition to being able to create all of that, you can also share your work. Now, when you're sharing your work, you're just going to click the download button there's two ways to share your work. You can share your work and actually invite someone else to be in on it. So I'll give the students, I'll write my email address on the board, and I will have the students add me to their Adobe Spark page so that then I can collaborate with them. I can go in and edit their work as well if I need to do so. You now can send it to Google Drive, which is pretty cool. But for our purpose, we're actually going to download it, and we will be able to get a link that we can share of the final product. So I'm just going to let that work. And that's Adobe Spark in a really quick nutshell. Let me show you what actually was created. So while that's working, I'm going to show you the story that I created in Adobe Spark. And it's a little bit dark, but that's okay. Let's have a look. So this was what I created in Adobe Spark using all of the imagery.
So it was you. The shouted words echoed through the room. Glancing behind me, I spotted the man, cloaked in black, his lips clenched as his finger quivered, pointing in my direction. Head swiveled, jerking between us. I knew I had to get away. Dashing between two tables, I dodged onlookers, trying to find the nearest avenue to escape. Footsteps pounded behind me. The thud, thud, thud rained in my ears. Would I make it? Would I be able to slip away?
So that's using all the tools that were inside Adobe Spark. As you saw with the Adobe Spark, once it finished downloading, I was able to save it as a movie file and MP4 file. And now I can pull it into other resources as well. In addition to using Adobe Spark, you're going to have an option to use Book Creator. And I found yesterday Book Creator wasn't working, but for me, but it is working now. Book Creator allows you to create up to 40 books. So students are allowed to create books with you, and you can create up to 40 books for free. There is an option to be able to pay. So I'm going to actually sign in as a teacher, and I'm going to choose to sign in with Google. You're able to create new books. Very, very easy. So you just click new books. And I like to choose comic because I like to be able to have the students place their work in specific locations. And once they choose to actually do that, I'm able to actually add panels. I like to use this so that their work is kind of confined to a particular spot. And they're able to add inside of it. So once I've chosen my panels, I'm going to click here and I can choose to add imagery. Some of it's built in. So let's say I'm going to look for popcorn again. And I can kind of search for that and add images that are already built in, or I can pull from my Google Drive, or I can upload files directly into Book Creator as well. So give it a moment to start. Come on, friend. I don't know why it's not showing. I can also add in my text. So I can choose to add in text with captions or text with this text box as well. I can also add in additional media where I can pull in recordings to add my voice or other items. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to show you the exact same story with Book Creator. So here I was able to add in my text. I added in one image, and this is all the text that I actually wrote. And I also added in my voice. It's the exact same story. What I like about Book Creator is there's a read to me option. And so you're able to have it read to you.
So it was you. So it was you.
And when it reads to you, it is reading generated based on the computer reading it. Or if you added your own audio.
So it was you. The shouted words echoed through the room.
Then your audio can play as well. So that's an option for you as well. You can also save your work. And when you save your work, you have this little share icon where you can actually, let's go back to the one that I haven't saved. You have this share icon where you actually publish it online. You give it a title and you'll get a link that you can share with all of us. The last option you're going to have is also one of my favorites. This is Storyboard That. And again, remember, all of these you have to log into. You have to create an account. I love Storyboard That because it allows you to create like a little comic strip. And I'm going to click log in. I'm going to log in with Google. I have to say agree. Come on. And once I log in, what I love about Storyboard That, especially for our students, is that the students are able to create 2 free storyboards per week. 2 free per week. And the storyboards can be saved in a variety of formats. So you're able to actually create 2 free per week. And that's great for our students because I'm able to use the resource without having to pay for it. So once I create my storyboard, log in, I'm able to pull down settings. I'm going to zoom out because I find the storyboard that gets a little bit too big. I'm also able to pull from a variety of characters. Many, many different characters are there. So I'm going to pull out this character. And what I like about it is I'm able to customize my character. So I'm able to change the hair. I'm able to change skin color. I'm also able to change poses. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit more to get that component. I'm able to edit the pose. There's some preset poses, like I can automatically make her cry, but I'm not going to do that because we're happy people. I can change her posture. So maybe I can have her sitting. I can turn her to her side. Lots of things. I can independently control body parts as well, right? So there's lots of things that I can do here. So I'm going to update pose, and I'm going to take my friend. I'm going to sit her right on the building. I like her there. I also can have her speak her thoughts by adding in some textables. So I can add in some speech bubbles and have her tell us more about what's happening, right? Tell us just a little bit more about what's going on in her thoughts. I can also change the layout because I want to use what you all have already created. So I can change it to 6, add in a title, add in a description. And now I'm able to kind of cut and paste what was already created. So if I take, that's a little bit too much. I can take what Michelle had already created. Doesn't fit, but hey, and actually paste my content right there, right? So I can put that information that's already been generated. Now we're limited on the free version to up to 6 panels. But if my students need more, which in a week they don't most of the time, but if they do need more then we just go ahead and make the second one. By the time we get to the end of the week, they don't necessarily need more than 2 within the week. Once I do that, the cool thing is I can save my work. So I'm going to zoom back in just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So when I have my students save their work, they're going to save at the bottom, and I'm just going to say girl on, I'm going to say girl on building 2. And I'm just going to click save. And the cool thing is, once I do that, I have all my components, but I can also share my work. And this is the thing. When the students are sharing their work, let me zoom in. You want to make sure that they choose view details. And they go to a web page that has a unique URL, like girl on building. As long as it has the title, they actually share this link with me, and then I can see all of their work. So let's go back. I'm going to click on my storyboards, and the exact same story I created, the exact same story right here. You can see the exact same story that I created with Adobe Spark, the exact same story that I created using Book Creator is created right here in Storyboard That. But I also added in some other components. I was able to add in some background characters and actually share their thoughts and feelings as they went along. You know, the shouted words echoed in the room, glancing behind me. All of those items were there, and I was able to tell the story. With the students, I don't stop there because I want to hear their voice. So I have them then, once they've created this and we're in the view details component, I have them use Screencastify, and they actually do a screencast and pretend to be voice actors where they are telling the story in their own voice, and they're using evocative emotion to share their story. Now, remember, even though I'm showing you examples of fiction, this can be completed with nonfiction components as well. There's lots of those in applicable in Storyboard That as well. Now, here's what we're going to do. Taking what you've done, I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to play around and use either Adobe Spark, Book Creator, or Storyboard That to do your story. Okay, to do your story. So give me just 1 second. Let me grab those links, and I'm going to post these 3, and I want you to put your story. Ready, Freddie? Let me go to the chat. I want you to create your story. I want you to put it all together. Ready? 3 minutes starts now. Let me go to my timer. Boom, boom, boom. And here's your 3 minutes. Go, my friends, go. What's going on? 30 seconds. So I know, y'all. I know that was not enough time to actually create a finished product. But remember, you're just testing things out, right? You're just testing things out. For those folks that have iPads, there's also a collection of iPad resources that I actually like to use as well. So check those out if you have iPads. Here's the thing. Remember, I said we always get to the end and we don't always have an opportunity to share. And that's the case here as well. But I do want you to know that I placed some information about how you share if you chose to do an Adobe Spark video, or you chose to do Book Creator, or you chose to do Storyboard that. Here are the instructions on how to share. So I'm going to place this link in the chat that's going to take you to a Google form where you can paste in your links to each one of those items. So you can share that with all of us. So here is the link to the form where you can share your work. And I do that with the students as well. I do have them paste links directly to their work so that, again, we have it in one location, because once I have it all in one spreadsheet, I'm able to have the students have a closer look at that spreadsheet and go back and evaluate and check out each other's work. Now, that's not those were not the only options. There's other options. You don't have to use a Google form. You could pull everybody's work into one collaborative Google slide. You could put everybody's work onto a Google site. You can actually have them post their work on Padlet as well, or create one book in Book Creator. Make sure you ask some questions as well. I like to have the students feedback, and I try to give them stories, sentence starters for I like, I wish, I wonder. Here's a link to the spreadsheet where you're posting your work, so you can check out some of the work that others have created as well, and you're able to see their creations. I want to say thank you, everyone. I know this was just a whirlwind. Right? This was just a whirlwind. I'll answer that question in just a moment. This was just a whirlwind introduction to digital storytelling. Tell me a digital story. How can we share our passion? How can we resonate and rise up student voices? How can we resonate with and rise up your voices as well? In the chat, I want you to share a wow or a wahoo. What's something that resonated with you? What's something that is great? I want you to make sure you do your homework. Go ahead and make sure you download a copy of this presentation. Yes, you. And open up the speaker notes. There are additional information there for you. There's lots of information. I wish we had more time there as well. Someone said, oh, you have to turn up your volume in Adobe Spark to make sure it's going to be loud enough. You got to speak close to that mic as well. So if you have any questions, my friends, feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to discuss things with you. So my contact information is there. In addition, let's make sure you get credit for hanging out with me today. Go ahead and pull out your device and scan this QR code so you are marked attended. Tell me your wow and your woohoo in the chat. And if you have any additional questions, let me know. I'm doing a class. I'm doing another session, I think at 2:00 about animated. Called Let's Animate, which is all about digital animation that we can do with our K-5 students. You are welcome to attend as always, but either way, please enjoy the rest of your day. Go ahead and scan that QR code, and love hanging out with you all. Bye-bye.